good, man? We back. It's RTTV, baby.
Gang.
If it's your first time here, definitely won't be your last. Make sure you kill, murder, and
smash
that subscribe button, man. And welcome back to RTTV, where we react to everything. Man, we back with another 40k Warhammer lore video, man. Shout out to that boy Luetin09 with these videos right here. Today, we're going to be diving into the dark beginnings of the Necrons. Necrons, if I'm not mistaken, are the robotic type of figures, species, the robotic type of xenoforms. Like yes, yeah. Exactly. So we're gonna basically get an understanding of that more. It makes sense that all these factions gonna have like their own history. So now we're gonna check out the Necrons. If you guys want to get these videos ahead of time, then you guys can go to our Patreon, and the link's right down below. And it's the Necrons, Old Ones, and Eldar. So it's 3 factions in this video right here.
This is Luetin. Welcome to our new series exploring the universe of Warhammer 40,000. 40k is a vast and fascinating universe with lore so complicated you could spend literally weeks discussing it. So one of the most difficult choices for me was where to begin with it. Now, the universe of 40k is such a mass of cross-referenced nuances and interlinked stories of revenge, justice, hatred, and brutality. It's like trying to explain the whole of human history to an alien race. So breaking the lore of 40k down into YouTube videos is quite a complicated matter. Now, one last thing to mention is that Games Workshop themselves have stated that in the 41st millennium, information is fragmented, intercepted, distorted, suppressed, and often flat out just false.
I just want to believe anything in this world.
That's what he said. Facts can be regarded more as hearsay than something that's just set in stone. This is especially true of ancient lore and race histories. This is in part because it allows Games Workshop to make changes to the universe without upsetting devout players. It also makes
that's fire though. That was like a planned out. It was like, yeah, the information is so false everywhere that like even if we change the laws, it's like
it was part of the history.
Yeah,
I told y'all everything. That's why I said when they first said that, I was like, yo, I believe anything.
War has been raging since almost the beginning of time. Also, if you look at humanity, it's often true that history is written by the victors. Also, with that in mind, you might expect some facts within the universe of anything
the starters
account to complete misinformation, which then translates to becoming the gospel word as it's passed down through the ages.
It's really a true story.
So where do we start our journey into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium? At the beginning, of course. We leave the Imperium of Mankind behind and travel some 60 million years before to the earliest time, where one peaceful, hyper-advanced race were masters of their own destiny.
Wow, 60 million years in the past.
These are referred to as the Old Ones, and they are, as far as recorded, the first sentient life in the universe.
Wow, okay.
Their lives focused on the acquisition of knowledge and to seed the universe with life, terraforming and creating new species, including one unintelligent ape-like species on a small blue planet in the Milky Way.
So they witnessed that.
Very little specific details exist around the Old Ones themselves, but the story of their place in the grand scheme of things is where we will begin. Now, the Old Ones had great psychic powers and built many wonders of godlike beauty and size, and it was this vast understanding of the universe that allowed them to manipulate alternate dimensions and begin constructing their arguably greatest achievement, known as the webway. Now, as its name describes, this is a web of pathways that allowed the Old Ones to travel through a vast sea of dimensional energy, known as the warp. The warp was a dangerous and disruptive expanse of powerful psychic energy.
And that's what we heard about, that people with magic abilities use right here.
Oh, this is one of them?
Nah, so remember in the other video, there's a species that uses the warp magic and stuff like that. Remember I said it's like arcane magic, hex tech?
That they don't know the effects and what it can actually do.
Exactly. So this is where it actually
came from.
Exactly, from the Old Ones. They use this to actually travel from dimensions.
It was a lot more passive than it is in the 41st millennium, where it's extremely full of dark, horrific, chaotic energy. So to travel through it, though, at this time, it still required protected psychic pathways, and that's what they constructed. The webway enabled the Old Ones to travel across unimaginable distances at incredible speed, essentially crossing space that would take millennia comparatively instantaneously, enabling them to reach the far corners of the universe. They believed that all life was useful, and they are known to have brought about the rise of numerous important species and formed thousands of worlds, which they also made their own. As the Old Ones expanded, they encountered other advanced species, although none as far as themselves. Once again, remembering we are at this time millennia before the dawn of mankind. One such race the Old Ones happened across were known as the Necrons. The Necrons' planet of origin was barren. It was radiation blasted due to their violent nearby star, making their home incredibly hostile to life. Their bodies were riddled with radiation sickness, and they lived extremely short lives, constantly preparing for their inevitable deaths. Their cities were built in anticipation of their demise, little more than vast tomb complexes with a few temporary homes for the living.
That's
They
crazy.
vainly tried to improve their mortality through scientific means, but after centuries they were consigned to the fact that their bodies could not be changed to survive on their home.
They're so radioactive that they
Somehow,
can't live
despite
long.
this, they altered their plans to instead reach to the stars in a bid to escape their cursed cyclical fate of painful, unending death. And this is where they were to encounter the Old Ones.
It's a wild life.
Yeah, right.
Could travel anywhere in space in mere steps and possessed near immortal length of life. The Necrontyr could not have been more opposite. They had to use slow-moving, non-warp-ready ships scripts that enabled the short-lived crew to survive.
This TV show is gonna be fire.
Yeah, it is gonna be elite, bro. Because if it's like incorporating this much of the lore and this much of the darkness revolving around this universe, it's gonna be elite.
We kind of seen episodes. We seen episodes.
Yeah.
That Warhammer video game.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy though? I really feel like the TV show can take it wherever they want to.
Yeah, they could.
You know what I'm saying? Like they don't have to. I don't think there's one story that they can really adapt. I think it's just like
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fire.
Because this story in itself is so in the past that like they may never actually like get deep into this one. It might be more about the present with the Astartes, the war. Like
This reminds me of Game of Thrones though.
yeah, they could always go back if they want
Game
to.
of Thrones got so much past history, and this is just the same way. But with this, we haven't even watched the show yet, so I think it's kind of dope. I kind of wish we watched this before we watched that video game now.
Yeah, right. Because we would have looked at it completely different. We seen this before the secret level episode.
And then
I just wonder how dark it can go. Like, how dark are they going to take?
They
Like,
already went
They
down.
already went there.
Bro, this dude,
But like-
they said that one of the species that they get you have your best bet is to kill yourself.
no,
Tyrants.
I'm saying, like, no, I agree with you. I'm basically saying the TV show, watching that, like, in a TV show form, how dark do they go?
Nah, it's
Oh,
probably
You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
the
It's
lore
probably
is
like
dark
some
as it
crazy
gets.
stuff. It's probably gonna be like Berserk. You know how Joe's like
Aw,
some part that they just
shoot.
cut out.
Yeah,
But you know how he
exactly.
said
Yeah.
certain stuff that we didn't even
Oh,
see.
okay.
Yeah, because the way they made it, when I heard that saying, bro,
Yeah.
when someone say, "Yo, them people get you, bro. Your best bet, bro, just to kill yourself."
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing to you.
Exactly.
Nah, they
Yeah.
said what they
And
was
they're
doing. That's the
aliens.
effed part. They said what they was doing, bro. Nah, you better
Nah,
correct yourself.
they didn't explain
They
all they
said-
was doing.
No, they did it.
They did it because they didn't really dive into.
No, they didn't
the-
dive into it, but they said, like,
They don't gotta say. They said it's you're better off killing yourself.
That's
I don't
enough.
even-
That's enough.
My imagination can go from there, bro.
In living
they said they some freaky people, bro.
grows and lives like that of an organic material. And this was to allow it to withstand the rigors of space flight. Despite this, though, colonization for the Necrontyr was a slow and painful process, as was everything in their history. But upon meeting the Old Ones and seeing their secrets of near immortality sparked a hope was raised within the Necrontyr. They finally saw a chance to be saved from their pain, a chance to live. And they petitioned the Old Ones for the secret of eternal life, but were refused this knowledge. In many ways, this refusal of knowledge doomed the universe to its fate of unending war and the events that were to follow.
Wow.
The Necrontyr burned with the resentment and hatred of the Old Ones and their unwillingness to save them from their pain and suffering. In addition to this, the Necrontyr Empire were battling brutal civil wars known as the Wars of Secession, which the various dynasties of Necrontyr were battling one another. The encounter with the Old Ones led the Triarch, the ruling council over all the Necrontyr, believed that an external foe would unify their species, and their bitterness to the Old Ones led to war. And it worked. The prospects of vast spoils and the secret immortality brought the Necrontyr dynasties together to launch their campaign against the Old Ones. Their hopes, however, were typically short-lived, as the Necrontyr were unable to match or outmaneuver the Old
they don't
Ones.
live long enough.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part about this, because I kind of feel how they feel in terms of like, yo, we are so short-lived. You guys got all this knowledge. You can't give us some sort of like resource or information that allows us to live a little longer. Like, we don't want immortality, but help us out a little bit.
My thing is, I think they were doomed the minute they found out about the old ones. So I feel like I don't think, like, if your lifespan is all you know, then I don't think it's that much of an issue, because that's who we are. It's not until I discover something else and figure out that there is some kind of longer, you know what I'm saying? The old ones, I don't blame them for not giving them the information. It's just that's who you are. It's your species. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I get you, because we seen even in Invincible that there was the species that Omni-Man mated with. They're short-lived and they accepted their fate.
Yeah.
The only thing with them is that these people were basically, they're suffering so much because they're radioactive. So it's like they're literally cursed by their planet that they're radioactive, so much so that they don't even build houses. Everything in the planet looks like tombs because of how short-lived they look. They left the planet looking for assistance. So that's why I'm like, it's different, because they actually left looking for help. Yeah. And then the old ones denied them and stuff like that.
It was more so that. So what you're saying is more so their environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
And they did leave.
They left looking for help. So it wasn't even the encounter with the old ones that made them think about it. They almost leaving looking for help already.
Yeah, I get you. They were already like, nah, they gotta be better than
this.
They gotta be better than this.
Eventually, conceding defeat, the Necrontyr were forced to retreat to their homeworlds, defeated and, importantly, more bitter and full of hatred for the Old Ones than ever before.
I kinda get it.
They've been vanquished. But the Necrontyr had no intention of dying out so silently. Instead, they redoubled their efforts to find new weapons to destroy the Old Ones and achieve what they sought so passionately, the secret of immortality. During their research for new weapons, they became aware of creatures living from the destructive solar radiation from their sun. These life forms were named the Satan, star gods in the Necrontyr's language. And the Satan
so Necrons aren't those robots.
The thing is, they still could be. I'm still waiting, because like I was wondering the same thing as you, because this is the past.
Yeah.
This is the history of the Necrons. This is their journey of basically like developing their species to live long enough.
So that what we may have seen is like them getting like
immortality.
Or able to at least live longer through some type of.
Because if they said there's robots, if they are the Necrons, I don't remember right now.
Yeah.
If they said that like they were immortal. Yeah. Even if you defeated them in battle, they would keep going.
Yeah. So that's why I'm waiting to get to the end to see the final look of the Necrons and see if it was the same ones that we saw before. Okay. So right now they discovered these. Yeah, Rob, I read the same thing too. They call them Satan, but it spells Satan and stuff like that. Like they're star gods that live off of like the planet and stuff like that. It's like, damn, how the hell they surviving and living this long? So that's how they're able to learn like how they can live longer.
Particularly aware of anything beyond their need to absorb raw energy and power. Their godlike energy seemed nearly invincible to the Necrontyr, the perfect weapon to unleash against the Old Ones, but if only they could harness that power. And they did through their living metal. They constructed bodies, empty husks, shells for the Satan to inhabit. It's unknown how they contacted the Satan initially, but through some means they encouraged the Satan to take physical form using the living metal bodies. The Satan, known as the Deceiver, spoke with Zarek, the Silent King, Lord of the Necrontyr Triarch, and told him how long ago the Old Ones and Satan had also been at war, but the Satan were defeated and scattered. This common foe brought the Necrontyr and Satan to a close alliance, and the Necrontyr began to worship them as gods for their supreme power. But as the Satan, once without conception of the world around them, became more manifest and intelligent, it was clear they were not the salvation that had been hoped for.
Wow.
The Citan offered Zarek an offer for his race, immortality. But this was not to be the immortality of the Old Ones, but that of living metal shells.
There it is. Yeah.
They proposed that a great period of biotransference would take place to give all Necrontyr that which they craved most, unending life.
Wow.
Okay.
In his desperation for victory, glory, and immortality, the Necrontyr Zarek agreed to transfer all other Necrontyrs into living metal bodies, that their flesh would be destroyed, but their minds and essence would live forever.
That's
There it
interesting.
is.
Oh.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna end your flesh, but yo, if you at least want to be immortal in soul and essence,
Yeah.
we could do
got
that for you.
That seems like a curse.
Yeah, right?
And that's why they explained that too. It was like it's not the same level of immortality that the old ones have. It's a whole different one. That's interesting. I like how
It's like improvised immortality.
Yeah.
Like they just had to figure out what could work for them.
Yeah, nah, shout out to the Satans. They helped them out in that situation, but is it help? Because they still cursed it one way or
It's
another.
still it's like it seems like this was just desperation at this point. It's
Oh,
like
no,
we want
100%.
it so bad that we're willing to do anything, and we're gonna be in these metal bodies rather than getting the same immortality as the old ones. That's interesting.
This,
Wow.
however, was the biggest tragedy ever to befall
Mm.
the
Yep.
Necrontyr.
I could see
Their
why.
minds were dulled to that of soulless drones,
Yeah.
and a few leaders maintained some semblance of their former selves, including Zarek. And it was at this time
Oh, no, that's
Zarek
trash.
realized he had made a terrible
That's trash. That's
Yeah,
trash.
it's a go.
his entire race.
I thought like you were still
Wow.
yourself. You were just.
Turned the
Yeah, me
Necrontyr
too, but it
into
was-
slaves,
yeah, it's
ruling
not
over
that.
them with extreme disregard and cruelty. The Necrontyr were extinguished from the universe forever, and the time of the Necrons had begun. But worse was still to come.
Wow.
We now
So
return
they ended their
to the
own
old
race in that moment.
Yeah, they do.
Like they evolved from Necrontyr to just straight up Necrons, and whoever they were in the past is
Chopped.
they're the soulless machines now.
Yeah, they said very few of their leaders was able to keep some semblance of themselves.
Yeah.
That's
That's-
crazy.
That's crazy, bro.
They promised you the world and gave you nothing.
One immortality.
The resurrection of that ancient enemy, the Satan.
What happens when you sell your
This
soul?
ignorance would prove
They sold it to
catastrophic,
Satan.
as the
Yeah.
old ones had
Ain't that
Should've
crazy?
known.
Yeah.
an adequate defense against one of the most destructive wars in the history of the entire universe.
Wow.
Known in the ancient history of the 41st millennium as the War in Heaven. So named, it was a war literally between gods and on a scale of unimaginable proportions, making the wars between races in the current time of Warhammer 40,000 seem like mere skirmishes. by
Crazy.
comparison. This war against the Old Ones was very different to the first. The Necrons not only had
That was almost like a
weaponry,
biblical
they now
reference,
were
that
protected
battle.
in their immortal
What do you mean about that?
Like with the fact that the person who gave the Necron or the people that gave Necrons the immortality was quote unquote Satan, and then had a battle with the gods, the old ones, right, in heaven. You know what I'm saying? Like it seemed like it was a reference to that somehow.
And then, I mean, they did say that a lot of Warhammer is reference to a lot of different historical things, so
Yeah.
it's possible.
living metal form, and the Old One's mastery of the warp and webways was continually countered by the Satan with their immense power over the material universe. In this time, the Satan spread out like vicious predators, consuming entire worlds, feasting on the creations of the Old Ones, who now retreated to only their strongest bastions to plan a way out of complete annihilation.
Wow, the old one's actually
All around,
struggling.
Entire worlds were razed, suns extinguished, and entire star systems devoured by the uncontainable Satan. The
Wow.
Old Ones had now retreated to the webway, only venturing out when it was essential. But even these once impenetrable paths were not untainted by the fury of the Necron.
Wow.
Facing complete extinction, the Old Ones seeded new life they hoped would protect them. These new races would have powerful psychic abilities to defend against the Satan.
There it is.
The early creations were the Eldar, the Knib, and the Roshan.
That's dope. So, yeah, it's crazy how, like, this war they brought up is nothing compared to the ones that's happening now in the current time. Because, like, these dudes' abilities are enough to blow up planets and stuff like that.
Gods though too. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a god battle.
That's crazy, bro.
And whilst the Eldar would live through to the current time, almost nothing is known of the fate of the Knib or the Rashan, and it's entirely possible they were destroyed completely by the C'tan and Necrons, with only the Eldar surviving this early time. Among their other creations were also those which would become mankind, beasts that lived in their own ecosystem but had no specific role defined for them by the Old Ones and were left to their own natural evolution. During these ancient times, the Eldar learned a great many secrets of the Warp from the Old Ones, who regularly visited them, mentoring them on how to control their psychic powers and learn to use the Warp.
Word.
Eldar legends originating from this time state that they were raised by figures of shadow and light, referring to them as First Ones. It is said they were the first to have reached into the starry night and to be older than gods, yet mortal and subject to time. They are said to have left.
So the Eldars are the closest things to the Old Ones.
To allow their charges to develop over millennia. They would return later in strange, vast vessels, but that were worn and scarred. This was, of course, due to them being engaged in an unending war against the C'tan, with the Old Ones returning to inspect the Eldar and judge if they were fit for the war ahead. The Old Ones are known to have aided their younger race in focusing their psychic abilities to create warp-derived entities and use them as weapons against the vampiric gods of Star Wars.
Wow, so that's how more and more these powerful races emerge.
The legends continue stating that in the time of the First Ones, now dwindling in number to the point that they lost influence among the Eldar. And without their creator's sensibility and guidance, the Eldar's psychic creations, born from the Warp itself, changed from sentient weapons into living gods of the Immaterium, who were the very, very first of their kind.
And that's the Chaos Gods.
Not only the final catastrophe for the First Ones, but in time would come back.
Yeah, see? These are the Chaos Gods. So the Chaos Gods, they're so strong because they was developed from the Warp.
Ones. And the first ones, right?
Yeah.
They were the kind of one that bred into their existence, like those kind of people.
Like, basically with this thing right here is like before, you know how there was that warp thing, they used to travel through it? Mm-hmm. They used to, like, the old ones had it contained so, like, dark magic wouldn't spill over because they knew how the chaos could really affect the universe. Mm-hmm. But through, like, this fight, they was using it so much that these people was actually able to destroy that warp. So now the warp, so uncontrollable, created these chaos gods right here and stuff like that. Oh. And now these chaos gods are basically variables that makes this war even crazier.
Consequences. The war in heaven continued, and by the time the Old Ones had prepared their forces, there were only 4 C'tan in existence.
Wow.
The swathes of other life forms in the galaxy the Old Ones had seeded were already extinguished. The Old Ones finally unleashed the new races, sending the Necrons reeling as the power of the Warp was an anathema to them, and they struggled to contain the advance of this new offensive. In response, the C'tan unified for the first time in millions of years. However, now a new and devastating and unforeseen side effect of the Old One's creations began to manifest in this period as the young race's psychic development disturbed the energies of the Warp itself. And from this pure energy came mass and form, and older Warp entities became predatory as the Warp began to become a more hostile environment. Cracks in reality would appear, and the entities of the Warp saw entry into the material universe, forcing the Old Ones again to bring about the emergence of new species to defend their final stronghold.
You see what I'm saying?
So many different directions, they barely had anywhere left to turn. Among their creations included the green-skinned ultraviolet croc, later known as orcs.
Orcs.
So they created the Eldar and the orcs.
Yeah.
Yeah, in their attempts to help fight the C'tan.
The C'tan and the Necrons.
Necrons, yep.
Yeah.
But like it seems like the creations, like in creating it, it caused just more chaos.
Exactly.
Which is even crazier because like they created the armies, caused chaos as a result, and then they created more armies to contain that same chaos that they just created from. That's wild.
Like all these, basically all these species came about because they said no to the Necrons.
Yeah, literally. Like
realistically, if you really think about it, if they just hand them resource, like, yo, here, hold that.
Yeah.
Here's an extra 30 years on your life.
I think even if they gave immortality to the Necrons, they would have eventually became their enemies. Because I feel like they kind of, like, in denying the Necrons immortality, they then gave some kind of power to the Eldars, and there wasn't immortality, but like even that even turned against them.
But the only thing is though, right? If I'm not mistaken, they didn't ask for immortality. They just asked to like extend their lifespan.
They just wanted to.
That's why I was like, yo, smack like a good 30 years on their life. I think they would have been I
don't believe they were on the quest for immortality, because I mean that's how they pitched them since the beginning, right? Like that was what they wanted. Was immortality. Like I think that is what they were going for, and I feel like this lore so far is like the fight for survival breeded more war. Consecutively.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, yo, like for me to survive, I needed to do this, and then the person who needed to survive that I would have attacked after got stronger because they knew, and it just keeps like this like
cycle.
This cycle of like I have to be the big fish because if not, I'm gonna get devoured. It's kind of like the food chain just keeps evolving.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, these people have to evolve and become grittier because they know that the foe is only getting worse.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's like really what we're watching. Like, yo, in order for me to survive in this planet, in this madness, I have to be the big fish. Because if not, I will be devoured in this. So.
Now though, the old ones, even with their vast knowledge of creation and their near immortal.
That's really what the old ones did at the beginning. They were like, all right, we'll enslave these people. All right, we're stronger now. And then now other people got to get to. I don't know. It's a lot.
Tragically, it manifested by the very creations that they had formed to save them. Mm-hmm. Among the most insidious of these entities were the enslavers, who penetrated and dominated the minds of the younger races in order to open portals for themselves to the material universe. The plague of enslavers was the final blow for the old ones, who were scattered forever, their power and knowledge destroyed.
Wow.
The combination of an unending onslaught from the Satan combined with the mistakenly unleashed warp horrors led to the old ones' complete destruction.
Wow.
The
So they're chopped.
Satan and Necrons had the final pleasure of seeing the demise of their most bitter enemy.
They won.
After the destruction of the old ones, Zarek, lord of the former Necron tier Triarch, as you all remember, was left biding his time, waiting until the time was right to strike and lead a Necron revolt against the Satan.
Oh, he still won.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah,
like,
you're
Satan
right.
gave him everything, and they still fought.
Weapons created from all their knowledge.
The Satan took a and then they was like, well, he's the mob though. Like,
but to Pat's point though, the reason why I do think that if the old ones had given them what they wanted with the immortality, they probably wouldn't have attacked, is because like they said that once they developed these new bodies with the metal, that their like thought process dwindled, right? They thought differently. They became more malicious. Like they were shells of themselves. So I think if you give them that, then they don't become desperate and use these metal bodies. Their minds don't dwindle. Hence, they might not want to attack the Satan in that point. So I think that these metal bodies also play a role into how they're moving now.
That's true. That's true.
Even the Satan, the godlike Satan, to endure. And these Satan need gods almost impossible to destroy entirely due to their very nature, but instead shattered across the universe into energy shards.
Wow.
Zarek now saw that having destroyed
both originals are gone now.
Gone.
Created by the old ones, such as the Eldar, and becoming more powerful, knowledgeable, and dominant. The Necrons, exhausted by eons of war, could not stand against them.
Damn.
So rather than risk certain annihilation, he ordered that the Necrons withdraw into their tomb worlds and slumber in the Great Sleep.
So they won. So I would say the old ones won.
Assert their dominance over the galaxy once more. The Silent King, however, did not join his people in slumber. He destroyed a protocol that allowed him to control over the Necron race and journeyed out into the void of intergalactic space, where he may not find solace, but instead penance for dooming the Necrontier race in his deal with the now vanquished Satan. It was rumoured that the final Old One survived destruction from the Satan and Necrons. This survivor hid away, where he continued his old ways of tweaking, dabbling, and prodding around. And we'll discuss
The Watcher.
what he may have been doing in future content.
Wow.
When he was done with his work, he departed into the warp in order to hide and watch, as the old ones knew the warp intimately. As the Necrons now retreated into stasis until this time of cataclysm had ended, the lesser creations of the old ones, such as mankind, continued their own paths of development, to eventually rise as powerful forces in their own right. the mantle of galactic dominion would now pass to the Eldar. But the Eldar would survive where the Old Ones did not, and would see the last Necrons depart into their great sleep after they had turned on the Citar.
So they stood up top.
That's
I get why you're saying what you're saying.
because they were created by the old ones.
This really is the foundation for all events that would follow, and sets a lot of facts and implications into future events. So join me next time as we discover what the Eldar do with 60 million years of time on their hands. Thanks for watching today, guys.
That was hard.
That was fire, bro.
That was hard.
I wish I could read a book about this, bro. Like,
I would have been surprised that they would have that, though. They probably have that.
Yeah, so I feel like the originals was the old ones was first, and then it came the Necrons and the Satan. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they were at war, but the Eldar, they created mankind. They created the old ones created mankind and the Eldars, and the Eldar seemed
and
to
the
have
orcs, all them things.
Yeah, and the orcs, right?
Yep.
They seem to have won the war in this time period at least. They defeated the Necrons, and the Satans have all been eradicated. So like they might, and there was one old one that survived it all. Yep. So it seemed like whatever contingencies they made in creating new life in mankind and in Eldars and in the orcs, ended up winning the war.
Yeah, staying on top. Eldar's currently the strongest species that's like within the universe right now, outside of like, you know, like the Chaos Gods that's like dwelling within like the warp and stuff like that. The reason why I do agree with you is because even Zorak, which is the Necron leader and stuff like that, he thinks he took L. Yeah. He thinks he took L once he made that deal.
The biggest L.
Yeah, it's like
this race.
Yeah. He's like, yo, bro. Once I put us in that that hollow type of form and stuff like that, we took an L. Yeah. None of us is the same that we were before, which is why like Jerry's right. I think from that state, that's what made them even want to fight the Satan. Because they wasn't in their right state of mind. Like, they just fought them just like, I want dominance and stuff like that. And then they revolted against the Satan. Yeah. But they became warlike beings because they made that deal, realistically.
You know, it's crazy, but I would argue that, I don't know if you said it or Jerry said it, but if the old ones had agreed to give the Necrons something in the beginning, we might have been able to come together and just take Satans out earlier.
Like, but the Satans wasn't bad, right?
Yeah, they were.
Satans were they were inside. There was basically like species that was absorbing energy.
Yeah,
that's all they were. We harnessed them, manipulated them, and used them for war. Yeah. Exactly. That's what we weaponized.
It was like a source of power.
That's all it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Like to break down the Necrons, the old ones, and the Eldar. I definitely think there's so many different species and so many different stories. That just makes me wonder where the TV show's gonna start from.
Right. That's cool too. Like, this is all 60 million years before what we see, where the start is and all that stuff. So, shout out to the what do you call it, the Eldars, bro. They up on us, bro.
Like, the Eldars it was really a full circle moment for them. They really got everything. They pretty much said, no, you can't have this, and still got what they wanted in the end, even in their annihilation. That's wild to me. Like, the whole twist is just wild to me. It comes full circle.
Shout out to the Eldars, bro. So, let us know. More content for us to check out, man. I was seeing that Blicky is another person that does good lore videos. So, may check out some of his videos. Recommend down below. It's your boy Patricrt.
It's a maniac.
It's your boy Robcityrt.
What up? It's your boy DC.
It's your boy Wells.
And that settles it at
the round table.